there, my name is Kelly Dale and I'm owner of Off the Beaded Path, which is located in Forest City, North Carolina. A few weeks ago, I was playing with a pattern trying to come up with a fun Kumihimo necklace that I had seen in a Michael Kors ad. I was kind of making my own version of it, and it didn't turn out exactly like I wanted it to, but I was just playing and I wrapped it around my wrist. And the necklace would wrap around my wrist 3 times for a bracelet. And I thought, oh my gosh, how pretty is that? So what I started playing with was how to do the bracelet and actually make it wrap 3 times around my wrist and look good. So I think I've come up with a really fun bracelet that I think you'll really like, and it's using Kumihimo. Now, with Kumihimo, what you're going to need first is a foam disc. Now, the discs come in a couple of different sizes. This is the normal size disc, and this is what they call the mini disc. So you can kind of see this one is a little over a 6-inch disc, and this is a 4.25 disc, I think. So it's a good bit smaller to work with. I personally like to use the smaller one just because it's not as much to have to hold on to. But you can use either one that you might have. It's completely up to you. The other thing you're going to need are 8 bobbins. The bobbins look like this. And you snap them, and the top snaps up like this so that you can wrap your thread or your beads or whatever you want to put on there, and then they snap back closed. You're going to need 8 of those. The cord I'm using is S-lon thread. I'm using just the normal S-lon. They do make it in a fine and an ultra fine for very tiny beads, but this is just regular old normal S-lon cord. And the thing I like about the S-lon cord is it comes in lots of different sizes. And you can see it's just a normal size cording. I really don't know how to explain it better than that. If I had to give it a diameter, I would probably say it has a 0.7 diameter is probably what I would say if I had to guess on that. So that's what I'm using for my cording. Now here's the hard part to me about Kumihimo. Deciding how long your cords need to be and how many beads that you need to actually put on your cord. My wrist, and you'll need a tape measure for this, basically you want to measure your wrist. My wrist at a good feel on the wrist is about a 7 1/4. So normally what I would do is I would triple the thread amount. So I would probably do around 21 to 21.5 inches. The thing is, I want this to wrap around my wrist 3 times. So I would, for a safe measurement of like 22 inches, I would probably measure off and roll up on my bobbin about 66 inches of thread. This will give you plenty of thread to do the bracelet with. Now, the thing about the thread is always to have way more than not enough, because you can't go back and add thread. You can add beads and take off beads off of the thread, but you can't actually add thread. So be sure to kind of it's always better to have too much than not enough. The seed beads I'm going to be using today are a size 8 seed bead. Now there's different brands and different cuts on seed beads, but for my bracelet what I'm going to be using is a Toho seed bead, and it's going to take between 6 and 8 beads per inch on each of the 8 threads to make the length of the bracelet that I want. And that's mainly how you figure out. I like to err on the side of too much, so I normally put on 8 beads per inch when I'm doing whatever, just using my size 8 seed beads. So basically what that means is if I want 22 inches of beadwork, I want to thread on about 176 beads on each 8 of my cords, and I'm going to show you how to do that. You're going to need a big eye needle today. This is what will help you thread your beads onto your S-lon cord. you're going to need, I like to keep a pair of flat nose pliers handy, so that way if one or two of my beads have a hard time getting over the needle, I can use it to kind of pull. You're going to need some end caps. Now, for a Kumihimo, using size 8 seed beads and using the 8 threads like we're using today, normally you will need an end cap that has an 8mm opening or bigger. So I've got, this is my very first one that I was trying to play with the other week when coming up with the pattern. And you can see, and I'll try and show you, these little end caps. I love these end caps. They're called Bell, B-E-L-L end caps. They're just very cute, very small end caps. And I really, really like to use these. So you're going to need 2 end caps. And like I said, they need to have an 8mm opening or bigger. Now, I do tell you on the actual, there will be a pattern for this week that you can purchase on the website. And I do tell you on the pattern what size end caps that you'll need for different sizes of the seed beads, and I also give you counts of the seed beads, whether you're going to use a size 11, a size 8, a size 6, whatever you want to use. I give you all those counts on the pattern so that you'll have that for future reference. So, to get started, and I think I've got my list pretty much taken care of, except for you will need a clasp. I like to use a toggle or a really, really strong magnetic for the bracelet. And you're going to need 2 pieces of 22 gauge wire that are approximately 3 to 4 inches long. Besides that, you should be good to go. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my thread. You should have 8 pieces measured out to what you need. For me, it was 66 inches. And you want to take the thread, the very end of it, and just take your bobbin, and you just want to wrap that thread around the bobbin. And that's all you're going to do is just wrap and wrap and wrap and wrap and wrap. Once you get the thread on there, pull off a little bit and pop the bobbin back down like that so that you have your thread. Because now you need to add your beads. So I'm going to show you how I add my beads, and then I'll show you the table here of how I've got all of them laid out so you'll kind of know. And we're going to go step by step through this process. People either love Kumihimo, they don't understand it, or they don't like it. Those are the 3 categories I would put people in. 90% of the people are in that I don't understand it, because they've either not been taught and they've tried to learn themselves, they've looked at a book, or whatever. So if you're one of those people and you don't really understand Kumihimo or understand how your beads lay or whatever, I hope that this video will explain it to you. There's a lot of really good resources out there on the internet that teach you about Kumihimo. So if you like this video but you don't think that I do a fabulous job at teaching you how to do it, then be sure and check out some more other videos from other people. I tell you right now, my favorite Kumihimo video is by Jill Wiseman, and it is called Kumihimo with Beads. This is a really, really, really good DVD. I've been doing Kumihimo for a while and I really enjoyed it, but I'll tell you, this DVD is a really, really good one, and she's going to go into way more depth about Kumihimo and different things than I'd have time to here on our YouTube channel. So go ahead and get some of your cords together, and then I'm going to show you how I add my seed beads to the cord, and then how I actually get started. I'm pulling out my big bead mat. I normally, when I do Kumihimo, just pull out about a little piece of it. I took a piece one time and cut it into 4 sections, and so that's what I'm using today. It's just a little piece. So I'm going to thread my big eye needle onto the very end of my S-lon cord. And this makes it very easy to go ahead and start picking up your beads. And basically all I'm doing is tapping the side of the bead and picking it up. And you will want to pick up until you have, like for me, I'm going to pick up 176 beads. Now, what that means in the long run when you have to do this for 8 pieces is today I'm using this E6000 gold lined black diamond seed bead, and this is a Toho seed bead. So I went through one complete tube and then almost half of another. I've still got some laid out here that I can add, but this will show you about how much you would need for your bracelet. The gold one that I showed you a minute ago is the galvanized gold Duracoat. It's the same bead, same tube, same everything, but it took me one whole tube and just a little out of another. So it just kind of depends, but when you get your seed beads, be sure and go ahead and get 2 tubes of the same color just to be safe. So go ahead and get all your beads on here, and then once you get your beads on, what it should look like are my samples that I have over here. Now, with these samples, I have taken and I've got all my beads already threaded on, and you can see my beads inside of my little bobbin there. And I have left probably about 12 inches of thread out with some seed beads left out. So you want to do all 8 of your pieces just like this, and then I'm going to show you how we continue. So once you've got all 8 done, then you want to take and gather the 8 ends that you have sticking out. Get them even, and then tie them into a knot. It doesn't matter if it looks sloppy because we're going to cut this off at the very end. So now what you have is just a long tail of 8 different pieces. Now I'm going to be using my small disc today. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to take this knot we just made and we're going to stick it through the center loop of the board. And normally what I do is I use my pointer finger and my middle finger to hold that knot as I work. At this point, you'll notice there are 4 dots on your disc. And these dots are where we start and how we know we're in the right position. So if you look right next to each of these numbers, there's a little slot, a little foam slot here that opens up a little bit. And what we're going to be doing is taking each of our threads and putting them on each side of the dot. So one thread will slide in to the left side of the 8, one thread will slide into the right side of the 8. And we'll be doing that on the 8, the 16, the 24, and the 32. Now, if you have a disc that is just plain, you can always take and put 4 dots on the disc that are opposite from each other, making that square, that cross shape, and then you would do exactly what I'm telling you to do. So let me rework my camera position, and then I'll show you how we do this. Alright, so normally when I start on a disc that has numbers already on it, I like to start here on the lowest number. That's the number 8. So the first thing you want to do, we're going to take that knot and we're going to stick that knot inside of the hole, and I'm going to use my pointer finger and my middle finger to hold that knot into place. Now when I flip everything back over, I'm going to take one thread at a time and I'm going to place it on each side of those dots, those 4 dots that we have. At this point, it doesn't matter what direction or what order that you put these in. You are just making sure that you have one thread on each side of the dot. And you want kind of the same tension throughout. And as you can see, all the little danglies here, and they're not too long, so that way it won't get you confused or anything like that. So like I said, I like to start on the lowest number. So I'm going to start on number 8 here. And your mantra is top right, bottom left, top left. So what that means is I'm going to take the top right thread, the one that's on that right hand side, and I'm going to come down to the bottom right. So that means it's going to come to the thread that's to the right of my bottom dot right here. So I'm going to slide it in place. Now bottom left, so I'm going to take the bottom left thread, which is this one right here, and I'm going to bring it up to the top left. So I'm going to go to the open space right next to that thread that I've got. So that's my first stitch, I guess you could say. I'm going to turn it clockwise to come to the next dot. My next dot will be number 16. I'm going to take the top right cord, so this one right here, and I'm going to bring it down to the bottom right cord. So it's the open slot right next to my cords. Then I'm going to take the bottom left cord and bring it up to the top left. And I'm going to turn it clockwise to the next turn. Now as you can see, each set of threads now is right next to the dots. And what's going to happen as we work around, each of these threads is going to move until they're actually back to the next set of dots. So continuing my mantra, I'm going to take the top right, so this is my thread right here to the right of the 23, and I'm going to bring it down to the bottom right. Then I'm going to take the bottom left cord and I'm going to bring it straight up to the top left cord and turn clockwise one turn. Top right cord goes down to the bottom right cord. The bottom left cord will come to the top left. Clockwise one turn. Top right goes to bottom right. Bottom left goes to top left. Clockwise one turn, and you're just going to continue this. Top right comes to bottom right. Bottom left comes to top left. Turn. Top right to bottom right. Bottom left to top left. Turn one turn. Okay, so at this point, everything should be exactly opposite, and it is. And you want to continue this mantra, top right, bottom left, top left, until each of your cords are back at the dots. So I've continued until I was all the way back around to my dots. And I don't know if we can actually get it to where you can see it, but what it's done is it's created a braid. And that braid is what's going to, where we're going to attach the actual cover up with the end cap when we get to the end. Now I'm ready to start adding my beads. So I'm to where I'm supposed to be right here at number 32. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this out of its slot, the top right. Now I'm going to take one of my seed beads and let it drop down. And what's going to happen is I want it to go under this thread. So I want to kind of push it, make sure it goes under that thread, and then I'm going to bring it down to the bottom right. Okay, so this is what my bead looks like right now in place. Now I'm going to take this bottom left cord. I'm going to drop down one bead, and I want to make sure that that bead goes right under that cord right there. And this, when you first get it started, that can take a little bit of a, okay, so it's under there. Now I'm going to take this cord and I'm going to go to the top left, just like I normally would. So at this point, with my two beads, this is what it will look like. Now, I'm going to do my turn. Alright, so I'm going to take my top right cord here. I'm going to drop down one bead, and I'm going to make sure that bead goes under this top cord here. So it's under the cord, so I'm going to come down to the bottom right like I normally would. Now I'm going to take this bottom left cord. I'm going to let one of my beads drop down, and again, I want to make sure it goes under that cord. And then I'm going to come up to the top left. So far, this is what your piece should look like. Okay, I'm going to turn it. Take the top right cord. Let one bead drop down. Make sure that bead goes under the cord here. And then come down to the bottom right. So same mantra, we're just adding a bead every time. So pick up the bottom left, drop down a bead, make sure it goes under the cord, and then I'm going to come to the top left. Turn it, top right, drop down a bead, make sure it goes under the top cord here, and it goes to the bottom right, and then my bottom left drops down one bead, make sure it goes under the cord, and then it comes up to the top left and turn. So from here, this is what it should look like. And you just want to continue this until you have the length that you need. So again, I'm going to take the top right, drop down a bead, make sure it goes under this top cord here, and it goes down to the bottom right, and then my bottom left, pick it up, drop down a bead, and make sure it goes under this bottom cord here. And then it goes up to the top left. So I'm going to show you one last time. Top right, drops down a bead. Make sure that bead goes under the top cord. And it goes down to the bottom right. The bottom left drops down a bead. Make sure it goes under the cord. And it goes to the top left. So as you can see, you're starting to get a braid of your beads here inside the circle, and that's exactly what you want. Now, if you need to sit this down and you need to walk away and come back to it, what I always do is I lay it down on my bead mat or my table or whatever, and I take this top right hand cord and I go ahead and pull it out of its slot and just kind of let it sit there on my mat so that I'll know I'm ready to start with that top right hand cord. Now, until you get the hang of the motion, you may want to either write the motion on your disc or write it down and leave it on your table. But you just want to continue doing the Kumihimo just like I showed you here until you get the desired length that you want for whatever project you're going to do. Now, as you work, you may find that some of your bobbins are starting to get you know, the beads are starting to get up close, and all you have to do is grab a hold of that bobbin and just pull it out a little bit to let some more beads or let some more string come out from that bobbin, and then that way you can just continue and won't even have to set your piece down. You can just continue with your work the way that you need to. So I've been working and I have my piece the length that I think it should be. So you can take your ruler or your measuring tape, and you want to get that 0 right at the place where you stopped. Okay? Then you'll pull out and you measure how much you've got and how much you need. For my bracelet, I have 22.5 inches. Now, once you get that, then you want to do one complete round, not adding beads. So if you have any beads left over, don't add the beads this time. Just go all the way around, just doing the regular, you know, top right, bottom left, top left. And once you do that, go ahead and pull it off the disc, and I'll show you how to do that. So I've gone all the way around the disc, and you can see now it's just made my weave with nothing else. I'm going to make sure that all my threads are pulled down to where it leaves a good bit of excess thread. Now, with that being done, I'm going to take all the pieces off of the top. And I'm going to pull my rope through the tube. Now, here where the last bit of the braid is, I'm going to make a knot. But before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut the thread, leaving yourself a good bit of tail here. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make the knot. And then once I've got the knot and it's pulled down, then I'm ready to start adding my ends. So again, here is my length of rope, and we're ready to put the ends on. Okay, so to start the end, I'm going to take a piece of the S-lon cord that I had left over from my project, and I'm going to use just a small piece. I'm going to bring it up under one of the ends of my Kumihimo piece, and I'm going to come right below where the knot is, and I'm going to take and I'm going to tie these threads together, and I'm going to pull it really, really nice and tight. And I want to leave enough room that I can cut off that knot here in just a little while. So possibly do it right in the middle of that stitch or that braid, and pull it really, really nice and tight. Now I bring the thread back around, and I'm going to tie it again. And again, pulling it really nice and tight. Once you're sure that that is not going to come apart, then you want to take some E6000, and you want to apply the E6000 to this cord here, and then right along the edge of the cording, so that it will be able to sink in between the braid a little bit here around the top. I suggest to use E6000 because it's a soft glue, and if you do that, you're going to need hours or even overnight before you complete this. But it's completely up to you. Once it is dry, then you want to take a good pair of cutters, and you're going to cut that knot off. Okay, cut the knot off and cut off any little excess pieces of cord that you have, and you're going to do that for both sides. Once you get the end finished, this is what it should look like. you don't want this piece to be long because you want your cap to sit right over those last rows of beads. So I went ahead and trimmed it where I knew I could, where the glue was dry, and so I went ahead and actually cut off my little piece of thread too that I had wrapped on, because it's all nice and dry and stiff there. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take my piece of wire. You can use 20 or 20 gauge, and I'm going to start a wrapped loop. Now I'm not going to finish the loop because I'm going to take the wire and I'm going to work it in to the piece, and I want that loop to be up inside, just like this. I'm going to open it up a little bit more. There we go. Okay, so now I'm going to take the wire and I'll do a wrap, just a couple of wraps around the stem. And once that's done, I'll go ahead and I'll check it on the bail or the end cap. And that is going to be a perfect fit. But what I want to do, I want to make sure that that's going to stay good. So I'm going to take and I'm going to put some E6000 glue right here on the inside of the cap. And then I'm going to slide the cap on, so that way it'll be nice and secure and I won't have to worry about this coming off. Once that's done, then I'm going to show you how to make your wrapped loop. You want to use your round nose pliers, and you're going to grab right above the bail or the bead cap or whatever you're using. And for this side, I'm just going to start my wrapped loop, and I'm going to thread on one end of my toggle. And I'm going to grab and I'm going to wrap until I meet the bead cap or whatever you want, end cap, whatever you want to call this. And then I'll trim the wire. And that will complete this side. Now for the other side, what I like to do is I like to go ahead and when I put the cap on, I go ahead and thread on 2 of my size 8 seed beads. This will allow the toggle to be able to go through the bar to go through the loop very easily. Sometimes if you don't do this, the bail gets in the way and you can't get that bar inserted into the toggle correctly. So now, with the ends put on, I can now wear my new bracelet. This is what it looks like on the front, and then this is what it looks like on the back. The ends just overlap just like that. So it's a very pretty bracelet that you can wear, and if you wanted to, you could also take and do this same thing and make it and wear it into a necklace. And it's a really good transfer piece that you can use. Now I will tell you this, the way that I did this video, this is my way of doing Kumihimo. It may not mean that it's right, and it may not be like anybody else's. This is just my way of doing it. So if you know another way or you've seen another way, feel free to do your ends maybe a different way. It's completely up to you guys. So we will have kits this week, but the kits will be the Kumihimo disc, the bobbins. We're going to put end caps. We're going to put a gold, a silver, and an antique copper in there. And then all you have to do is just pick out your beads, whatever kind of size 8 seed beads. And a lot of people have some just sitting around their house. So you can find the pattern, which has all the information, plus the kits available on our website, and that's offthebeadedpathbeadstore.com. I hope you and your family have a great day, and be sure and come back next week when I'm going to show you a fun way that you can accept accessorize one of these Kumihimo pieces and convert it from the bracelet to the necklace at the length that it is now. So hope you guys have a wonderful week, and we'll see you again next week. Bye bye.